हेलो फ्रेंड्स, वेलकम टू मनी लॉ क्लासेस। मेरा नाम गौतम दीक्षित है। आज के इस वीडियो में हम दिसंबर 2 2021 का द डेली हिंदू एनालिसिस करेंगे। टू एक्सेस द वीडियोस ऑफ डेली हिंदू एनालिसिस प्लीज सब्सक्राइब टू मनी लॉ क्लासेस प्राइवेट लिमिटेड यूट्यूब चैनल। आज के जो इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ हैं, एक तो ओमिक्रॉन से रिलेटेड है। ओमिक्रॉन विच इज़ द न्यू वेरिएंट ऑफ कंसर्न in the world. It is spreading, it is especially spreading in European countries, and now India is gearing up to stop its spread in India. तो इंडिया ने कुछ डिसीजंस लिए हैं related to international flight plans. Earlier हमने न्यूज़ में पढ़ा था कि full service was going to resume as it was in pre-pandemic level. But now, because of the emergence of this new variant of concern, now the plans have been modified and there are now new regulations, especially the travelers who are coming from the risk countries. Now we will also study about Maharashtra, where Maharashtra has passed the regulation, notified the regulation, which is more tougher than what has been passed by the union government. There is divergence from it, so we will study about that. Then हमने गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज टैक्स के बारे में पढ़ा था। हमने अभी रिसेंटली गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज टैक्स के बारे में देखा कि there was a committee under the Chief Minister of Karnataka who has recommended three rate structure for GST, that is 8%, 15% and 30%. I repeat, the new structure recommended by the committee under the chairmanship of Karnataka Chief Minister was 8%, 15% and 30%. Earlier जो अभी existing है वो हमारे पास 4 rates है, that is 5%, 12%, 18% and 28%. Now हम आज के न्यूज़ में देखेंगे कि GST कलेक्शंस जो है वो नवंबर में काफ़ी बढ़ गया है, एंड इट इज़ द सेकेंड हाईएस्ट कलेक्शन सिंस द रोल आउट ऑफ द सिस्टम इन 2017. देन आगे के पेज पर कुछ इंपॉर्टेंट न्यूज़ आ रहे हैं रिलेटेड टू IMD न्यू कलर कोडिंग फॉर टेम्परेचर. देन वी विल ऑल्सो स्टडी अबाउट अ ब्रीफ अबाउट प्रोजेक्ट एलिफेंट, बिकॉज हमारे पास डेटा आया हुआ है जहाँ पे एलिफेंट के डेथ के बारे में मेंशन है. एंड देन वी विल सी ऑन द एडिटोरियल पेज अबाउट रोड टू रिकवरी. ये एक बहुत ही अच्छा आर्टिकल है जो आपको पूरा सिनॉप्सिस देगा अबाउट वेरियस इकोनॉमिक इंडिकेटर्स एंड व्हाट देयर आर अदर प्रॉब्लम्स इन द इकोनॉमी. देन about the Belarus problem जो हम काफ़ी दिन से पढ़ते आ रहे हैं, and again we have a editorial about the POXO. So let's start the news. The first is Omicron scare grounds international flight plan. So union government ने जो new rules निकाले हैं which will be effective. Now Indian government has indefinitely postponed the full resumption of scheduled international flights from December 15. इसका मतलब क्या होगा कि अब जो international flights हैं वो ऑपरेट होंगे स्मॉलर स्केल पे और सिर्फ 31 कंट्रीज के साथ. ये वो 31 कंट्रीज हैं जिसके साथ इंडिया का एयर बबल एग्रीमेंट है. नाउ कमिंग टू द रिस्क कंट्रीज, सो द यूनियन हेल्थ मिनिस्ट्री हैज सेड दैट करंटली 6 COVID-19 पॉजिटिव केसेस हैव बीन रिपोर्टेड फ्रॉम 11 इंटरनेशनल फ्लाइट्स फ्रॉम एट रिस्क कंट्रीज ऑन वेडनेसडे. इसमें से जो टोटल 6 COVID-19 पॉजिटिव केसेस है उसमें से 4 पॉजिटिव केसेस हमें दिल्ली में ही मिले हैं. देन अबाउट द महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट विच हैज़ इशूड अ स्ट्रिक्ट गाइडलाइन. तो अगर हम देखेंगे तो महाराष्ट्र गवर्नमेंट ने हर एक इंटरनेशनल पैसेंजर्स को कहा है दैट ऑल दोज इंटरनेशनल पैसेंजर्स हु आर कमिंग फ्रॉम एट रिस्क कंट्री फ्रॉम December 3 टू अंडरगो ए मैंडेटरी इंस्टीट्यूशनल क्वारंटाइन फॉर अ वीक. देन द स्टेट हैज़ आस्क्ड ऑल द इंटरनेशनल पैसेंजर्स टू कंपल्सरीली अंडरगो RT-PCR टेस्ट ऑन अराइवल. और जितने भी डोमेस्टिक पैसेंजर्स हैं जो महाराष्ट्र में जाएंगे उनके पास एक नेगेटिव RT-PCR टेस्ट होना चाहिए. नाउ बिकॉज ऑफ दिस इशू जो हमारे हेल्थ सेक्रेटरी हैं राजेश भूषण, ही रिमाइंडेड द स्टेट ऑफ notifications given by the union government, and he has highlighted the difference between the two, and he said that there should be the adherence to the union government notification to ensure uniformity. So if you will just see that the union government guidelines are that it requires passengers from at-risk countries to undergo RT-PCR test. इसका मतलब अगर हम महाराष्ट्र से इसको कंपेयर करेंगे तो महाराष्ट्र में हर पैसेंजर्स को RT-PCR टेस्ट के लिए जाना होगा. सेकेंड, जो भी एट रिस्क कंट्री से आ रहा है उसे 7 डेज का क्वारंटाइन मस्ट है. बट अगर हम यूनियन गवर्नमेंट का गाइडलाइंस देखेंगे तो जो एट रिस्क कंट्रीज से आ रहे हैं उन्हें RT-PCR टेस्ट करना होगा. अगर कोई पॉजिटिव आता है तभी उसे इंस्टीट्यूशनल क्वारंटाइन में जाना होगा, और जिसका टेस्ट नेगेटिव आता है उसे होम क्वारंटाइन के लिए जाना पड़ेगा फॉर 7 डेज, एंड दे हैव टू टेक द टेस्ट ऑन 8 डेज. द नेक्स्ट इज द मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ सिविल एविएशन. इसने क्लैरिफाई किया है कि कोई अगर नॉन रिस्क कंट्री से आता है बट बीच में रिस्क कंट्री से होते हुए आता है, देन दे विल बी एग्जेम्प्टेड फ्रॉम दी RT-PCR टेस्ट ऑन अराइवल। ओके, तो हेल्थ मिनिस्ट्री के हिसाब से यूरोप और 10 कंट्रीज ऐसे हैं जो एट रिस्क कंट्रीज हैं जहाँ पे स्ट्रिक्टर नॉर्म्स फॉलो होंगे कि उन्हें RT-PCR टेस्ट के लिए जाना होगा। नाउ द नेक्स्ट इज that passengers who are coming from at-risk countries, those who have to go for the RT-PCR test, they have to wait once they arrive at an airport in India before their test results arrive. अगर नेगेटिव टेस्ट रिजल्ट आता है तो उन्हें एयरपोर्ट से बाहर जाने दिया जाएगा एंड दे हैव टू गो फॉर होम क्वारंटाइन। अगर पॉजिटिव आता है देन दे हैव टू गो फॉर इंस्टीट्यूशनल क्वारंटाइन। नाउ इससे रिलेटेड एक नया प्रॉब्लम आया है अबाउट दी पीपल who are missing their connecting flights or who have to pay extra money for getting the RT-PCR test done because of long queue. So tighter curbs are proving costly for the flyers. So यहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है कि passengers who are coming from at-risk countries, they have to go for compulsory RT-PCR test. Now they have to wait for the longer time to get their test results, and in that way they are missing their connecting flights. अब इस चीज़ से बचने के लिए passengers क्या कर रहे हैं, they are paying very high cost for rapid PCR test जिसका रिजल्ट जो है वो 1 आवर में आ जाता है, and if they are waiting for this RT-PCR test to come, so it is taking very long hours, like it can take around 6 hours or more than 6 hours, किसी किसी केस में तो 48 hours भी लिया हुआ है। Then the next is that there is so much of crowd at the international airports that there is no social distancing norms being followed over there. So there has been concerns because of lack of social distancing and missed connections. The next is about the GST collection surge in November. So the gross goods and services tax collection has hit rupees 1,31,526 crore in November. It is the second highest collection since July 2017 and it is the second month in a row where collections have crossed rupees 1.3 lakh crore. Next is the revenues for November. It is 25% higher than the November 2020 and 27% higher than the pre-pandemic level of 2019-20. Now अगर हम देखेंगे थोड़ा सा collections के बारे में, so tax collections from imports of goods they were 43% higher. अगर हम domestic transactions की बात करेंगे which include import of services, then it saw 20% higher collections. Now there is a report from the Union Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change which has said कि 1160 elephants have been killed in the country for reasons other than natural causes in 10 years. ये सिर्फ एक साल का डेटा नहीं है, ये 10 साल का डेटा है अप टू December 31st 2020। अगर हम नंबर ऑफ डेथ्स देखेंगे तो इलेक्ट्रोक्यूशन से 741, ट्रेन हिट्स 186, पोचिंग की वजह से 169 और पॉइजनिंग की वजह से 64. So the electrocution has claimed the highest number of lives among the elephant. अगर हम स्टेट वाइज डेटा देखें सो कर्नाटका एंड ओडिशा दे हैव लॉस्ट 133 एलिफेंट्स ड्यू टू इलेक्ट्रोक्यूशन ड्यूरिंग द सेम पीरियड और असम हैज़ रिपोर्टेड 129 डेथ्स. नाउ अगर हम ट्रेन कैजुअलिटीज़ देखें कि जो ट्रेन हिट से जो एलिफेंट्स के डेथ हुए हैं उसमें असम का नंबर सबसे ज़्यादा है एट 62 एंड वेस्ट बंगाल इज एट नंबर 69. नाउ अ टोटल ऑफ 169 एलिफेंट्स हैव बीन किल्ड बाय पोचर्स इन 10 ईयर्स और जो पोचिंग की वजह से जो डेथ हुआ है वो ओडिशा में सबसे ज़्यादा है और केरला में सेकेंड नंबर पे है. देन असम हैज रिपोर्टेड द हाईएस्ट नंबर ऑफ elephant poisoning followed by Odisha. The next is the World Elephant Day. So the World Elephant Day is observed on 12th August. That is important. 12th August. The next is India का एक प्रोग्राम है that is called as Project Elephant. Project Elephant. It was started in 1992. जैसे कि Project Tiger है which started in 1973. Similarly we have Project Elephant. इसका जो aim है it is to ensure the long-term survival of population of elephants in their natural habitat as well as in captivity. The next is the IMD has forecasted that winter in northern India is going to be warmer than the normal. So here winter in northern India it is going to be warmer, means less harsh as compared to preceding years. Now this higher temperature it is likely to be prevalent not only in the northwest India but also in south, northeast and parts of Himalayan foothills. Now the next is about the color code regions. So IMD officials, they are coming up with a new forecasting system in which they will not give actual expected temperature deviation, but only color code regions indicating if they are normal, above or below normal. Then this last paragraph, it is important. Currently the Andaman Sea is seeing a cyclone pressure. मतलब वहाँ पे क्या हो रहा है कि low pressure area develop हो रहा है, which in future can develop into a cyclone. And this cyclone can intensify and it will be given the name Jawar by December 3, and it will approach Andhra Pradesh and Odisha coast. Then about the winter rains, इंडिया में winter rains को कहते हैं महावत. ये नॉर्थ वेस्ट रीजन में होता है महावत बिकॉज ऑफ वेस्टर्ली डिस्टर्बेंसेस. ये क्वेश्चन बहुत पूछा जाता है एग्जाम में, दैट व्हाट आर वेस्टर्ली डिस्टर्बेंसेस. वेस्टर्ली डिस्टर्बेंसेस आर लो प्रेशर सिस्टम ऑफ मेडिटेरेनियन सी and it is transported to India through jet streams. So they cause winter rain or Mahavat. So the winter rains now it's going to happen over South Peninsular India, particularly Tamil Nadu, Puducherry, Karaikal, coastal Andhra Pradesh and Yanam. Now जो ये rainfall जो South India में होने वाला है, it is not going to happen because of Mahavat. It is going to happen because of this cyclone Jawar. But जो winter rains Northern India में हम experience करते हैं, it is called as Mahavat. It is related to westerly disturbances. Okay, so अगर हम देखेंगे हमने पहले भी डिस्कस किया था that southern India, especially the Tamil Nadu side, it experiences heavy rainfall in November-December month because of northeast monsoon wind and cyclone. Now the next news is about the UAPA, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act 1967. सो मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ होम अफेयर्स ने, गवर्नमेंट ने एक डेटा टेबल किया है राज्यसभा में. उसके हिसाब से उत्तर प्रदेश सॉ द हाईएस्ट नंबर ऑफ केसेस रिपोर्टेड अंडर दिस लॉ. इट वाज फॉलोड बाय जम्मू एंड कश्मीर एंड मणिपुर. देन द नेक्स्ट इज दैट अ बिल हैज़ बीन पास्ड बाय लोकसभा टू रेगुलेट IVF क्लिनिक. तो इस बिल का नाम क्या है? द नेम ऑफ द बिल इज असिस्टेड रिप्रोडक्टिव टेक्नोलॉजी बिल 2020. द एम ऑफ द बिल इज टू propose the establishment of National Registry and Registration Authority for all clinics and medical professionals serving in the field of IVF. The next is the bill seeks to regulate and supervise assisted reproductive technology clinics and ART banks, prevents their misuse, adopts safe and ethical practices and other things. The next is India has joined the G20 Troika with Indonesia and Italy. पहले हम ये ट्रॉइका समझते हैं कि ट्रॉइका क्या होता है. So Troika, it is the group which consists of G20 previous president, current president and future president. तो इसके हिसाब से अगर हम देखेंगे, so 2021, 2020 and 2022. So 2020 के लिए the chairman is Italy, then Indonesia, then we have India. So these three countries will form Troika. So now since India is going to host G20 summit in 2022, so India has become the member of Troika. So India is going to work closely with Indonesia and Italy to ensure consistency and continuity of G20 agenda. The next is the Central Drugs Standard Control Organization has sought additional information on administration of Covaxin for children. तो जैसा कि हम जानते हैं कि Covaxin, it is manufactured by Bharat Biotech and it was developed by Bharat Biotech in collaboration with ICMR. So now Covaxin is seeking approval for inoculation of 2 to 18 age group children. So the Central Drug Standard Control Organization has sought additional information. तो अगर हम देखेंगे तो फेज 2 एंड फेज 3 क्लिनिकल ट्रायल जो डेटा होता है, इट हैज बीन deliberated. Now more data is needed for giving it the approval. The next is from Foreign Affairs is EU plans euro 300 billion infrastructure fund to counter China's BRI. तो जो चाइना का जो BRI है, पहले हम ये देखते हैं इसे क्या कहते हैं. So China's BRI, the full form of BRI is Belt and Road Initiative. It aims to develop land and sea infrastructure for better connectivity between China and to connect China with Asia, Europe and Africa. The aim is to deepen the trade and development in this region. Now, it was launched in 2013 by President Xi Jinping and China has said that it has invested already $139.8 billion by 2020. बट जो वेस्टर्न कंट्रीज हैं उनका जो आउटलुक है BRI की तरफ वो थोड़ा नेगेटिव सा है। वो कहते हैं कि चाइना ट्राइज टू इन्फ्लुएंस पुअर कंट्रीज through its project which is called as BRI, and the western countries they criticize China for inciting emerging economies to take on too much debt, and they have means western countries are alleging that it happens to the secretive tender process which is prone to corruption. अब इसके अगेंस्ट में यूरोपियन यूनियन ने वेडनेसडे को अनाउंस किया टू मोबिलाइज €300 बिलियन फंड थ्रू इन पब्लिक एंड प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट अराउंड द वर्ल्ड टू काउंटर द BRI. इसका नाम क्या होगा? इसका नाम होगा ग्लोबल गेटवे. सो दिस ग्लोबल गेटवे इट इज गोइंग टू एम टू मोबिलाइज इन्वेस्टमेंट ऑफ अप टू 300 बिलियन यूरोज बिटवीन 2021 एंड 2027 and is going to bring together the resources of EU member states, European financial institutions and national development finance institutions. Now WHO members agreed to forge a pandemic accord. तो ये हमने पहले भी न्यूज़ किया है कि the World Health Organization is now coming up with a new international agreement or accord on how to handle the future pandemics and ensure that something like COVID-19 is not repeated again. यहाँ पे जो इसका फोकस है on information sharing about the diseases. So it is going to focus on information sharing between the countries and then on prevention, preparedness and response. The process will present its final outcome in 2024. Means by 2024 this international accord will be ready. The next is manufacturing PMI signals November output growth at 9-month high. So अगर हम IHS मार्केट का मैन्युफैक्चरिंग परचेजिंग मैनेजर्स इंडेक्स अगर देखेंगे so it has climbed to 57.6 from October's 55.9. हम कंसिस्टेंटली पिछले कुछ मंथ से देखते आ रहे हैं कि ये बढ़ते ही जा रहा है and now India's manufacturing sector has recorded the strongest production expansion in last 9 months. अब हम देखेंगे कि अगर हायरिंग की बात करें so हायरिंग भी थोड़ी सी इम्प्रूव हुई है over the past 20 months. Now if we will just see in the editorial that one of the significant challenge to this manufacturing sector is rising cost of input. जैसे कि हमने ऑटोमोबाइल सेक्टर में देखा था that because of the rising cost of input the production has gone down by around 22%. The next is due to Omicron fear the OECD has cut the world growth from 5.7% to 5.6%. Now today's editorial, the first is about the point of disorder. It is over here the article is discussing about the suspension of 12 opposition members of parliament from the Rajya Sabha for the entire winter session. Now यहाँ पे जो डिस्कस हुआ है वो ये हुआ है कि अपोजिशन में हमेशा एक चीज़ देखी गई है इंडियन पार्लियामेंट्री प्रोसीडिंग्स में कि वॉश आउट हो जाते थे पहले पूरे सेशंस और देयर इज टू मच ऑफ फ्रीक्वेंट डिसरप्शन, बट डिसरप्शन जो है दैट लीड्स टू टाइम लॉस ऑफ पार्लियामेंट, बिल्स कुड नॉट बी डिस्कस्ड. बट यहाँ पे ये एक चीज़ और डिस्कस किया गया है कि व्हाट इज द रूट कॉज ऑफ दिस फ्रीक्वेंट डिसरप्शन बाय ऑपोजिशन. So over here if the government does not try to discuss the bill and if the bills are passed in haste then that is not good for the government also. अगर हम फार्म बिल की बात करें तो फार्म बिल which was passed by voice vote, ultimately what happened that since the response of every political party was not taken while passing this bill, so at last this bill had to be taken back. So over here if you will just see that parliament, which is the platform where executive is held accountable to the representatives of the people. So here in parliament the people's issues are raised by the representatives. So if we just focus on efficiency of the functioning of parliament by not allowing the opposition members or not giving them opportunity to speak on the issue of public interest, then this kills the spirit of democracy. The next is about road to recovery. तो कल हमने फ्रंट पेज पे ही जीडीपी के बारे में पढ़ा था कि जीडीपी में 8.4% एक्सपांशन हुआ है इन द सेकेंड क्वार्टर दैट इज ऑफ फाइनेंशियल ईयर 2022. वो जो एक्सपांशन हुआ है इट इज़ 8.4%. अगर हम लास्ट ईयर का अगर डेटा देखें सेम टाइम का सो इट वाज 7.4% कॉन्ट्रैक्शन. अगर हम प्री पैंडेमिक लेवल से अगर इसको कंपेयर करें तो देयर इज अ मार्जिनल इंक्रीज ऑफ 0.3%. सो इफ वी सी द अनदर डेटा व्हिच वी डिड यस्टरडे अबाउट द कोर सेक्टर ग्रोथ, so core sector also saw growth and many of the sectors are doing very well. But there are certain concerns. The first concern is private final consumption expenditure. Now the private final consumption expenditure has the largest share of GDP at 55%, and it is still quite low. It's still not picking up. Then second is government spending. So government consumption spending भी is quite low because government is seeking for the fiscal consolidation. So what happens that the aggregate demand in the economy is quite low. Now if the aggregate demand in the economy is quite low, so what will happen that the manufacturers, they will not produce enough, and then there will be the buildup of inventory in the factory, and if there is a buildup of inventory in the factory, so again we will start seeing the economy going down. Okay, that is the first challenge. The second challenge is, according to the IHS Markit PMI data, the input cost is rising again. So if the input cost rises, then there will be an inflationary pressure in the economy, which is again going to hurt the recovery. So over here the government should follow on creating the demand supportive measures. It should follow the demand supportive measures by increasing the government spending so that the recovery sustains and it gains traction. So the next issue is Poland Belarus issue. So there is a migrant crisis going on between two countries. So Belarus President Lukashenko, he has been accused that permitted visa-free entry of Kurd refugees from the war-torn West Asia, and he has encouraged their passage to the EU border and into the Poland specifically. But Poland has used repressive measures to expel the migrants from entering into their country. Now this has led to a crisis in the European Union region. अगर हम बेलारूस की बात करें, so Belarus is undergoing sanctions from European Union. Why? Because the president of Belarus, President Alexander Lukashenko, he got the sixth term as the president in Belarus, and now he has a economic and military alliance with Russia. Now since he has a military and economic alliance with Russia, but still he is causing a problem with Russia, because Russia has recently passed the Nord Stream gas pipeline, which will supply gas from Russia to Germany, and now Belarus is threatening to stop this pipeline. The next is that what is the issue going on? So this is the issue that about NATO, Ukraine and Russia. So here Russia sees NATO interference in Ukraine as danger to its sovereignty in the Black Sea area. On the contrary, Ukraine is saying that Russia can invade Ukraine anytime. Now there is one region which is called as Donbas region. So it is a breakaway province of Ukraine. So in 2015, both the country, Russia and Ukraine, they signed the 2015 Minsk agreement that was designed to end the conflict in this region, that is Donbas region, through provincial autonomy. But Ukraine has not implemented the agreement reached in the Minsk agreement, and Moscow, it has lost all hope from the Kyiv that Ukraine is serious for any political reconciliation of Donbas region. Then what is the larger issue in all this? The larger issue is all about migrant crisis. So all over the world we are witnessing the migrant crisis. So if you will just see, United States has turned away Haitians, Thailands, Burmese, Indian, Rohingyas and Afghans people. Then we just saw a few days back that there is a migrant crisis going on between Britain and France. So if you will just see that there are estimated 26 million refugees in the world, and still no corrective action is being taken to solve the migrant crisis. Now the next is about the decentralized development, the concept of decentralized development. Now in India, you can see that there is a regional imbalance in development, and many committees in the past have highlighted the decentralized development. Now one of the tool to achieve this decentralized development is about decentralizing the capital. So now this decentralizing the capital, is India the first country to practice this? No. If we just see South Africa has decentralized capital concept. Now if you will just see that in South Africa we have Pretoria, which is the executive capital. Then we have Cape Town, which is the legislative capital, and then we have Bloemfontein, which is the judicial capital. अगर हम इंडिया के कुछ स्टेट्स की बात करें, जैसे कि फॉर एग्जांपल टेक द केस ऑफ मध्य प्रदेश, सो वी विल सी द मध्य प्रदेश द एग्जीक्यूटिव कैपिटल and the legislative capital is in Bhopal, but judiciary is in Jabalpur. If we talk about Maharashtra, so Maharashtra has the concept of decentralizing capital, that Maharashtra functions through Mumbai, Pune and Nagpur. Okay, and then if we just see the Jammu and Srinagar, until now there were two capitals, one is Jammu and one is Kashmir. Now again let's see Uttar Pradesh. अब उत्तर प्रदेश में भी सेम कॉन्सेप्ट है, द कैपिटल इज लखनऊ, but the high court is in Prayagraj and its bench is in Lucknow. So what is the benefit of this? The benefit of this is that if we have very centralized development, so it creates the concept of a strong center and weak periphery. Okay, so suppose that there is only one city in the state which is quite developed, so it will see high growth in population, burden on its infrastructure, and then the other areas it will be underdeveloped. Now if we take the case of Andhra Pradesh, which was bifurcated in 2014. Now Andhra Pradesh, after taking out Telangana, we have three regions, like we have Rayalaseema region, then we have coastal area, coastal Andhra Pradesh, and then we have Vijayanagara kingdom, Vijayanagara or Vishakhapatnam area. Out of this, the coastal area is developed, the rest two areas are underdeveloped. So a committee was set up under the chairmanship of K.C. Sivakrishnan. It recommended decentralizing the development, that there should not be one capital, there should be three capitals in Andhra Pradesh. But later on, only one city was selected for the capital, and that was Amravati. Then the committees were set up to examine the feasibility of this. Then the next committee also recommended decentralizing the development or decentralizing the capital. Now what is the current development? The current development is that earlier only Amravati was being developed as a capital city, but experts committee had recommended against it. Why? Because Amravati lies in the floodplain of Godavari district. It is prone to flood, firstly. Secondly, that Amravati soil is not suitable for construction and it is more suitable for agriculture. Now, in all this background, the Andhra Pradesh Decentralization and Inclusive Development of All Regions Repeal Bill has been passed by the Assembly, and it aims to repeal the earlier laws that stipulated a three capital plan for the state, which was passed by the Andhra Pradesh Assembly on November 22, 2021. And now it is going to look at the comprehensive regional development based capital model for Andhra Pradesh. The next is about the POCSO Act. So that there was a judgment from the Allahabad High Court which said that the oral sex with a minor aged about 10 is not a case of aggravative penetrative sexual assault under POCSO Act. But if we just see the section 5M of the act, which says that anyone who commits penetrative sexual assault on a child below 12 years is said to have committed aggravated penetrative sexual assault. Now, if anybody has committed the aggravated penetrative sexual assault, then the imprisonment should not be less than 10 years, but it may extend to imprisonment for life. POCSO Act, it was enacted to protect children from offenses of sexual assault, sexual harassment and pornography, because these crimes were not covered under any act. There is a section 42 which provides for alternate punishment, and it was specifically introduced in POCSO to award greater punishment which has not been provided in under any act. The next is about the ambiguity. So suppose if there is any ambiguity about the act which was recently seen in the Nagpur bench of Bombay High Court related to skin physical contact in case of sexual assault, then the Honorable Supreme Court has held that language is quite clear and the intent of the legislature is quite clear, and section 5 which defines the aggravated penetrative sexual assault, so there is no reason for court to deviate from the law and to award lesser punishment. Then is there any discretion to the court to award lesser punishment than a minimum 10 years as prescribed in section C of POSCO? So if we will just see, that there are two important things to note over here. Earlier, Section 376 of the IPC had the provision to award lesser punishment than the minimum prescribed by recording adequate and specific reason. So Section 376, which pertains to punishment for rape. But Supreme Court in the state of Rajasthan versus Vinod Kumar has set aside an High Court order of reduced sentence, which had given the minimum sentence without recording adequate and special reason. But if we see about the POCSO Act, the POCSO Act does not provide any discretion in awarding punishment of imprisonment. Okay, so here the Allahabad High Court, according to the author, was mandated to follow to these statutory provisions. The next is that the High Court has not given any reason that why it has not considered this offense as a aggravated offense since the age of the child was 10 years. So at the last, the author is saying that despite the relevant sections like section 5M, okay, the court has overlooked this section 5M and it has convicted the accused for penetrative sexual assault with lesser punishment. And since monitoring of the implementation of the act is responsibility of National Commission for Protection of Child Rights and State Commission for Protection of Child Rights and state governments, so everybody must challenge the judgment by the Allahabad High Court. So that's all for today. We will meet tomorrow again with the Daily Hindu analysis. Till then, have a nice day. Take care. Thank you.